Hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to discuss the syllabus, topics and potential questions of evolution and systematics. These two areas are often treated as one unit, which comes just after genetics in paper 2 of geology for main examination. On the surface of it, and even by considering the time taken to cover it, it is not a big area, but it commands a very big weightage. In the last 10 years question analysis, I found that in a given year it has attracted questions at least for 60 marks and going up to 80 marks in a given year. Considering that the paper is framed for 250 marks, a single section commanding 60 to 80 marks makes it command the weightage of almost 25% to up to 1/3, that is 33%. And the best part, as I told you, that it does not take much time to prepare. So this is one area where you can invest limited effort, but you can reap rich dividends. Let us quickly check what are the topics and how to study them, and while studying those topics, what are the subtopics or what are the potential questions that we have to keep in mind. So this is the syllabus that UPSC gives you. If you wish, you can pause the video and take a look on how the UPSC has organized the syllabus. But I am going to reorganize the syllabus so that when you study it, you study coherently, and that will build a good concept for the examination. So this is my reorganized syllabus. Now I would highly urge you to pause the video and appreciate the reorganization of the topics. If I bring it on the full screen, so you will see that the entire set of topics are divided into two parts. One part is evolution, where there are in total 12 topics, and the second part is rather small, which is systematics, that is made up of 4 topics. In evolution, first and foremost, you should start with origin of life. Origin of life in the last few years has attracted 1 or 2 questions, but the questions are simple, and the origin of life mostly hovers around the theory that got established after Stanley Miller's experiment. This theory is called biochemical abiogenesis. Prior to this theory, there has been a number of speculative theories which were put forward, especially during medieval times. But slowly, the advent of scientific methods disproved all these older theories, and we got to realize that life originated from gradual increasing complexity at the level of biochemistry, and slowly biomolecules aggregated together, and when they developed an ability to self-replicate and have a self-contained metabolism, it gave rise to the earliest cell. This earliest cell was the universal common ancestor that we also know as the last universal common ancestor. In the theories of origin of life, first you will have to deal with Stanley Miller's experiment, and then based on that experiment, what the subsequent scientists established about the sequence of events which led to the origin of life. Next is theories of evolution. In the theories of evolution, technically you should be studying a number of topics, but the examiner's bias is towards Darwinian theory. Darwinian theory again finds a manifestation in your syllabus as the third topic, that is natural selection. After that, you should be studying mutations in evolution, both in organic evolution as well as speciation. Mutations lead to heritable variations, therefore you should be studying variation as the next topic. Mimicry is a topic that can pretty well be studied anywhere in the syllabus, but it should ideally be done a little later than the natural selection, and this is why I have brought mimicry somewhere after natural selection. Mimicry is that phenomenon where one species appears or behaves or does both like another species, and this resemblance in structure or behavior must be beneficial to this mimic species. So the mimic species is the one which mimics another species. The other species is called the model. But this act of mimicry must be advantageous to the mimic, and this advantage must be offering some sort of selective advantage, and this is why mimicry is a part of evolutionary biology syllabus. After you have done all of these, you should be doing Hardy-Weinberg law. Hardy-Weinberg law brought population genetics level insight into Darwinian theory of natural selection. With Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium assumption and its exposition, Darwinian theory met the modern statistical methods, and that is called the new synthesis of evolutionary theories. Once you have done with that, you should be studying molecular drive. Molecular drive is a rather new concept, but it establishes itself as a sixth and very important force of evolution. When you study Hardy-Weinberg law, you get to know the 5 main drivers of evolutionary changes. But molecular drive has come to establish itself as the sixth factor. After you have done all these things, you can study evolutionary pattern, within which you will have to acquaint yourself with terms like microevolution, macroevolution, mega-evolution, adaptive radiation, so on. After doing this, you will be completely done with organic evolution. Then the time comes to study speciation. But before speciation, one has to study isolation. Isolation is an important mechanism that leads to speciation. At the same time, speciation reinforces isolation. The isolating mechanisms were beautifully explained by Theodosius Dobzhansky. And Theodosius Dobzhansky's isolating mechanisms have found their space in the question paper so many times in the last 10 years. If you expand your horizon and see the last 30 years question, you will notice that it has been asked no less than 9 times in the last 30 years. So 1/3 of the times isolation and speciation have been asked. After that, you should be doing evolution of horse, elephant, and man using fossil data. And there is a hidden topic here, which I will be discussing later, that is the study of fossils themselves. Then continental drift and distribution of animal. It can be seen as 2 distinct topics, but they are extremely related. Therefore, I have included them under one topic, that's continental drift. Here you will be studying Wegener's theory of continental drift, and then your focus will shift to animal distribution, where you will have to study geographical realms of the world and how the faunal diversity is found in these realms. After this, you will come to systematics. In systematics, you will be studying zoological nomenclature and the International Code for Zoological Nomenclature. Molecular taxonomy is the next topic, but don't be deceived by simply reading molecular taxonomy. If you see the question paper, twice question has been asked on conventional taxonomy. So molecular taxonomy is a new tool to refine our taxonomic understanding, but it is important to understand how in fundamental ways molecular taxonomy differs from conventional taxonomy, and that will require you to study the methods and approaches of conventional taxonomy. And this is exactly why question has been asked on conventional taxonomy, although it is nowhere mentioned under the systematic syllabus. Once you have done that, you should study cladistics. Cladistics is basically an exercise to depict phylogenetic relation through branch diagrams, and it is based on synapomorphies. That is, what are the shared common characters which make one group of organism different from other group of organisms. The last topic is biodiversity. Biodiversity is also mentioned under ecology, but the purpose of mentioning biodiversity here is to study about biodiversity systematics by applying the tools of molecular taxonomy, cladistics, and nomenclature. Hence the mention of biodiversity. Although in one of the years they asked question on biodiversity, which was exactly a question from the ecological side, where you were asked to define biodiversity, explain what are hotspots, and also you were asked to explain what are the hotspots in India and what are their salient features. So this is not a question on biodiversity that you will expect under systematics, but UPSC put it in paper 2, and the students had no choice but to answer that. Having said that, this is the syllabus of evolution and systematics, a total of 16 topics, 12 in the evolution side and 4 towards the systematic side. Topic 11 that you can see on your board can be seen as 3 different topics, and that ways the number of topic will increase to a total of 18. Whatever it is, that's the entire topic. There is no other hidden topic except the study of fossils, because twice in the last 10 years they have asked questions on fossil formation, type of fossils, and how do we study fossils. So that's a hidden topic. Let us move to the analysis of individual topics. And when we come to analysis of individual topics, the first topic here is theories on origin of life. So when we talk of theories on origin of life, there are 2 sets of theories. The theories which were proposed in the earlier times, they were largely speculative, and later scientific developments disproved those theories. However, for the sake of historic continuity, you need to know about each one of these theories in short 3 to 4 sentences, a maximum of 5 sentences. Do not spend any more time on such theories which are outdated, which are discarded. It is just for the historic continuity. The question has never asked it in the last 10 years. Earlier, once theories of evolution, the origin of life have been asked, and because the theories have been asked, you would be required to present the older theories also. But in the last 10 years, as I said, there has been no question on this topic, and therefore you can safely keep those topics as a very small coverage. Rest of the coverage should be focused on what is known as biochemical abiogenesis. So biochemical abiogenesis is the theory that says that life originated by gradually increasing biochemical complexity, which created the earliest cell, which was nothing but a set of macromolecules where certain proteins were there which were enzymatic, DNA was present as the genetic material, RNA was present as the intermediary between DNA and the protein, and all of it was enclosed within a lipid envelope, and they also had capacity to carry out their metabolic activities and replicate themselves. Hence, it was the first self-sustained and self-replicating structure, and that is life. It is generally agreed that life originated about 3.8 billion years ago. What was the sequence of event that you need to know? You also need to know Stanley Miller's experiment. So to be clear, there are 3 things that you should be doing here. First, historic theories. Second, biochemical abiogenesis, that you should be doing in detail. And in detail means Miller's experiment. Second, refinement by later workers. Now please understand, there has never been a question separately on this part, refinement by later workers, but if you are knowing about it, it will be adding value, it will be adding some depth and extra dimension to your answer, and in a competition, such extra dimensions are extremely critical in securing that extra marks compared to your competitor. Therefore, you should be knowing that what were the developments which happened, what were the evidences which were gathered after Miller's historic experiment. And finally, the sequence of events. And if I see one unexpected question, then you should be preparing the RNA world hypothesis. RNA world hypothesis was given by Walter Gilbert after the discovery of ribozymes. And since ribozymes are anyway to be studied under genetics, so it would not be a surprise if one day for 10 marks even RNA world hypothesis gets asked. So it will be worthwhile to prepare something in 120 to 150 words on RNA world hypothesis. You do not have to even look for very fancy or very modern textbooks. Internet is having ample good resource on RNA world hypothesis. You can synthesize your answer from any of such sources. That is origin of life. Then you come to theories of evolution. In theories of evolution, you do not have to go much back in the past, but you should be doing Lamarckian theory. In the last 10 years, I will agree that Lamarck's theory has not been asked, but it is a matter of time. It can always be asked as a short note. Lamarck's theory was a theory which got a lot of acceptance when it was proposed, but slowly scientific findings disproved the theory. This is exactly why Lamarck's theory is not given much space in most of the textbooks or most of the curricula. But again, historically, it is a very significant theory, and you should be knowing not only about Lamarck's theory, but also Neo-Lamarckism. So 2 short notes you should prepare, one on Lamarck's theory and one on Neo-Lamarckism. When you are doing Lamarck's theory, so first about Lamarck himself, who he was, what was the timing when he was active as an explorer, as a polymath who had some explanation to offer about how the species would have arisen, how the species would have gotten the diversity that they have, so on. After that, Lamarck's observations, his main postulates, what all did he suggest, what were the evidences he provided, what were the merits of his theory, and what were the limitations of his theory. This much about Lamarckism, and both of these you should prepare in not more than 150 words. Lamarck's theory can also be asked as theory of acquired characters. So be prepared for that also, that Lamarck emphasized on inheritance of acquired characters. Therefore, we also call it theory of inheritance of acquired characters. So they can be asked as explain the theory of inheritance of acquired character, but it is all about Lamarckism. After Lamarckism, you have to study Darwinism in detail. So in Darwinism, you should be studying about who was Charles Darwin, his exploration, the influences on Darwin's thought. Darwin had studied the work of Alfred Russel Wallace. He was also influenced by the work of Malthus, plus he was himself an explorer who visited the Pacific coast of South America, and he visited the Galapagos Island. So Darwin's own finding through exploration and what Darwin read were the influences on Darwin. So this much, and then you have to study his theory of natural selection. So natural selection at an introductory level you should study here, but next topic itself is natural selection in detail, and that is where you will be studying a little more dimension about natural selection. So after you have studied Darwinism until this point, you can move from here to this topic, natural selection. Basics of Darwinian exploration, influences, his life and work you have done. You have also done the basic propositions of natural selection. Here you are going to study selection process, how selection operates, then types of selection, In types of selection, you'll be talking about stabilizing selection, disrupting selection, directional selection, and cyclic selection. So there are 4 types: stabilizing, disrupting, directional, cyclic. You will also be studying about industrial melanism. That is a phenomenon which has been asked in the examination, not in the last 10 years. To see this question, you will have to go a little back, but this is a question on Darwinism only. So you should be doing industrial melanism as a separate short note in about 120 words. Types of selection you should do in about 120 words. And here, don't forget to mention examples. And selection process you should also do in approximately 100 words, 120 words. Each one of these will allow you to write 10 mark short note. Apart from that, you will be drawing diagrams and all that. And don't forget to cover another thing that is known as continuous and discontinuous variations selection. So if ever it is asked, it is not a question on variations. Variations will only be explaining you the difference between continuous and discontinuous variations, but the selection of these kind of variations is exactly a question from natural selection. Prepare it for 150 words. That will be highly advisable. Besides, do prepare Neo-Darwinism. Neo-Darwinism has been asked, and earlier I was telling you, when Darwinian theory got validated by population genetic studies, this synthesis was called modern synthesis, and that gave rise to Neo-Darwinism. That is the crux of it, but you will have to study and prepare Neo-Darwinism. It has recently been asked in the last 10 years only. Neo-Darwinism should be prepared for 150 words. So once you have done selection process, types of selection, industrial melanism, continuous and discontinuous variation selection, and Neo-Darwinism, you have done a good job at Darwinian natural selection. And if you can prepare a short note to differentiate between Darwinism and Lamarckism, it will give you the space to handle the unexpected question. So this is also something that you should prepare in 150 words, and that will be all in this topic. Then you can move to the other topics. Role of mutations in evolution. This is a simple topic where you have to straightforward do 3 aspects. First, a summary of mutations. So you will be dealing with gross mutations which take place at the level of chromosomes, and you will be doing point mutations which take place at the level of a gene. Then there will be their subtypification. Do that. Rest of it you have already studied in genetics, so you do not need to go any further. Then 2 roles of mutations. Mutation in organic evolution. So here the mechanism is that mutation produces variations, and variations are the raw material which is acted upon by natural selection, and natural selection will bring organic evolution. Second, mutation in speciation. This has been a recently asked question. So in what cases and what kind of mutations can give rise to new species? So the answer is rather simple. Chromosome level mutations especially the numerical mutations at the level of chromosome, have been responsible for instant speciation, that is known as saltation, in many plant species. This kind of mutation based speciation has not been known in animal species, but it is well known in plant species. That example is there, you need to work upon that. That is the role of mutations in evolution. But apart from that, I would suggest that you should be doing Hugo de Vries mutation theory of evolution. So this will be an unexpected short note that may be asked to you. Do prepare Hugo de Vries theory of evolution. That's one question. Mutation in organic evolution is the second question. Mutation in speciation is the third question. And a summary is not going to be asked, and if at all it is going to be asked, you will be in a position to handle this question by virtue of whatever you have studied under genetics. So that should be no problem. So here you should be preparing these three: mutation in organic evolution, mutation in speciation, and mutation theory of evolution given by Hugo de Vries. After that, variations. What are variations? Then the types of variations. So what are the types of variations? There are several criteria on the basis of variations are typified. First, on the basis of origin. Second, on the basis of their continuous or discontinuous nature. Third, on the magnitude of variation. So there are types of variations that you will be dealing with. After this, cause of variation. Then effect of variation. And here, variation, natural selection, and mutation. So mutation leads to variation, and variation is subjected to natural selection. What are the questions that I see here? Correlation between mutation and variation, or correlation between variation and natural selection may be one question. Prepare in about 150 words. Effect of variation will have overlapping scope with this last question. Prepare it for 120 words. Types 120 words. Cause 120 words. It's a simple and straight topic. You don't need to do anything more. Moving next, you have mimicry. This has so far been a rather straight topic. So in mimicry, what we basically cover is what is mimicry, then types of mimicry, and in types of mimicry, do explain Batesian and Mullerian mimicry in detail. And then there are other types also, like Pavlovian mimicry is there, and Peckhamian mimicry is there. So do know about other mimicry also. When you are explaining mimicry, it will be important that you also deal with examples. Without example, the mimicry answers look very superficial. That would not be a good answer. So this will be the crux of the coverage, and of course Peckhamian, Pavlovian, and such mimicries you have to do in detail and with examples. So that's what you have to do here. And then mimicry and its evolutionary importance. Earlier in the discussion, I was telling you that mimicry is what a species does to copy another species. Either structurally, that kind of a structure has evolved over generations, or that kind of behavior has evolved over generation. But this kind of evolution must be giving some kind of advantage because of which it has evolved. So because it has evolved, there must be some advantage. So what is the advantage of mimicry? That you need to explain clearly. So here two kind of questions can be there. Number one, type of mimicry. Prepare a little deeper account, 200 words, and then evolutionary importance of mimicry in approximately 150 words. That will be all about mimicry. And then you can come to Hardy-Weinberg law. This has been one of the favorite questions in the last 10 years. Four times question have been asked on Hardy-Weinberg law. It's rather easy to understand. So it has to be covered. What is Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium? In brief, its history also. What does it propose? That means that gene frequency within a population won't change as long as 5 preconditions are met. So P square plus Q square plus 2PQ is not going to change as long as there is no change in 5 variables. So what are those 5 variables? That is what you have to mention clearly, and you have to explain very clearly the concept of gene pool, the concept of allele frequency, and then you have to explain the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. So the proposal and presumptions. So this is one question for you. What is Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium? Even if the question doesn't ask, give a little bit of history for it, and then main thing is proposal and presumptions. So this will be prepared by you in 200 words, and then although the syllabus doesn't mention it explicitly, but causes of change in gene frequency. So those factors which Hardy-Weinberg said that these factors shouldn't change, but if those factors change, it will be a change in gene frequency, and that is what you have to explain. So another 200 words. And be prepared to solve some basic numericals. Some numerical questions have been asked once in the last 10 years. So some basic number based questions, that also you have to prepare. So this one you have to practice. That will take care of Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium or Hardy-Weinberg law. By now you have done most of the topics. So Hardy-Weinberg law identify 5 main factors where if any one changes, the population's allelic frequency will start changing. And under the concepts of population genetics, when allelic frequencies change stably over a period of generations, it will be treated as evolutionary change. So they identified 5 forces of evolution. But molecular drive, which was discovered by Gabriel Dover, is the 6th force of evolution. Study in detail, but the question is going to be fairly straight. So what is molecular drive? What are the mechanisms behind molecular drive? That basically means how it operates. Next, how does it change gene frequencies? because to cause mutation you have to change gene frequencies. So how does it change gene frequencies, and then how does it compare to other evolutionary forces? These are the 4 aspects that you have to deal within a single short note of 200 words. Try to make one holistic short note, not exceeding 200 or 220 to 30 words. That will be enough for this topic. The next topic is evolutionary pattern. In evolutionary pattern, there are several things, but the examiners have largely been focused on 2 things. Number 1, the terms micro, macro, and mega evolution. Understand them clearly, give proper example to illustrate each pattern of evolution. That will be all. Second is adaptive radiation. It is a phenomenon where a number of species diverge from a common ancestor very rapidly because the environmental conditions are changing rapidly. So suddenly there is a great diversity of related species from a common ancestral stock. Under what circumstances adaptive radiation takes place and what have been the example should be dealt here. One short note in about 150 words here and another short note in about 150 words here. That should take care of evolutionary pattern. Rest of the things, even if you don't study, I don't think it is going to affect you. Then isolation and speciation. Speciation is origin of new species. New species can arise by anagenesis or cladogenesis. You need to understand the term, then anagenesis and cladogenesis. Out of them, which one is proper speciation, that you will find out once you come to understand these terms. Then cover sympatric speciation. A question has already been asked comparing sympatric and allopatric. Sympatric, after that allopatric, parapatric, and peripatric speciation. Each one clearly described and given proper example you should be covering. I would suggest each one should be covered individually in 100 words. So 100 words each, that is multiplied by 4. This one also you should cover in about 120 words. After that, instant speciation by chromosomal aberrations. This you won't find many example in the animal world, but taking example from the plant world, you should be covering instant speciation due to chromosomal aberration, another 120 word short note. That is all about speciation. Then come to isolation. In isolation, so far the questions have been confined around 2 areas. One, relation with speciation, and second, Dobzhansky's isolating mechanisms. They both have been repeatedly asked, so you should be preparing both, and I would say prepare both of them individually for 200 words. Relation with speciation in about 200 words and Dobzhansky's isolating mechanism in approximately 200 words. Then you will be done with isolation, and speciation we have already done. Then evolution of horse, elephant, man. Evolution of man is most important among these, and 6 questions in 10 years have been asked in different forms. You can easily understand its importance. Elephant, 1 question. Horse, 2 question. That means that nearly every year 1 question has been asked. So 9 out of 10 years a question has been asked from this topic. Here, stages. So the name of a stage, features of that stage, geological timing of that stage, and evolutionary linkage. That means where did this stage arise from and what stage did it give rise to. That will be one stage's description. And lastly, what were the selective pressures? For example, once they asked for bipedal locomotion, what were the selective pressures on hominids? That was a very interesting question. So you have to deal with multiple stages in the evolution of horse leading up to formation of origin of modern day horse, similarly leading to origin of modern day elephant and leading to modern day man. So in each stage, what is the name, why this name is given, what are the features, what is the geological timing, what are the evolutionary linkages, what has been the selective pressure. Then you move to the next stage, then you move to the next stage and draw proper diagram. So this is going to be a little demanding topic, but it is such an important topic that 9 out of 10 years questions have been asked. No one can ignore this. Then you move to continental drift. Continental drift has always been asked as a small question. So if in 150 words you prepare Wegener's continental drift theory, that will be sufficient for you. Distribution of animals is going to be a little bigger. So here you have to do geographical realms of the world. And from each geographical region, you have to study its location and its faunal characteristics. So in one of the years they asked the faunal characteristics of Indo-Malayan region. So that shows you that you have to study the geographical regions with a focus on the faunal diversity. So this is going to be a big one. So for each geographical region, prepare in approximately 100 words minimum. So location, a small aspect. Then in location, do draw a map where in the world it is located, and then talk about the faunal diversity. That will take care. After doing this, you have successfully done all the topics of evolution. Then you can come to systematics. The first topic is geological nomenclature and international code. So here you have to deal with international code for geological nomenclature, that is ICZN, geological nomenclature. This is one question that you prepare for 150 words where you deal with main principles plus main rules. Apart from that, you also have to do the historical background of geological nomenclature. So the topic is geological nomenclature. So what are the principles of geological nomenclature? What is the role played by international code? What are the main rules laid down by the international code? So questions have been straight. Once you prepare these 3 aspects, you are sorted for this topic. Next is molecular taxonomy. Before you get into molecular taxonomy, study the conventional taxonomy. So what is the conventional approach to classify the animals? How we go by morphology, comparative anatomy, and how do we establish the phylogenetic linkages? Once you have done all of this, plus alpha taxonomy, beta taxonomy, omega taxonomy, all of these, then you will be coming to molecular taxonomy. Then contrast will be very clear that how molecular taxonomy uses very different tools, refines our existing understanding of taxonomic relations, and it gives us much better insight into the phylogeny. So molecular taxonomy, conventional, is one thing that you should be preparing in at least 200 words. And after that you will come to molecular taxonomy, where the evidences of molecular taxonomy, what do we compare when we are doing molecular taxonomic exercise. Then interpretation of data, interpretation of data is another thing, and then its superiority over the conventional methods, and what are its limitations. All of these things you should be covering in molecular taxonomy, and of course, what is molecular taxonomy? That will be the introduction. Then you will be coming to cladistics. So cladistics is that branch of systematic analysis where, based on synapomorphies and their analysis, we make cladogram. So here you will be studying what do we mean by cladistic analysis, then what are the principles of cladistic analysis. That is where you will be dealing with synapomorphies, principles of parsimony, so on. After that, you will be drawing some example cladograms. A good and easy cladogram to make will be the cladogram for vertebrate diversity, so you can think of making that. Then superiority of this approach and limitations of this approach, and example cladogram has to be explained. So explain this example cladogram. Once you have prepared this, that is the only type of question that you will be asked. Prepare it in some detail, so I would suggest prepare it in 200 words, make a good cladogram, explain the cladogram, that will be enough. Last topic is biodiversity. Here the focus should be on cataloging of biodiversity using systematics, and systematics will mean both conventional as well as molecular plus cladistic analysis plus nomenclature, proper nomenclature. This is the main focus, but you should also be prepared to be surprised if ever they ask an ecological orientation of question. Once they have done it in the last 10 years, I would not be surprised if they do it again. Having said that, this is not something for which you have to prepare separately, because under the ecology section, you have to study biodiversity from ecological angle. That will be taking care of ecological dimension of the question, even if it is asked in paper 2. This was the last topic of systematic. So with this, you would have completed the coverage of evolution and systematics. As I said in the beginning, it's a small area. It should not be taking a lot of your time, but its rewards are proportionately much bigger. Again, I'm reminding you that in a given year, it gives you at least 60 and up to 80 marks. So 80 marks is nearly 1/3 of 250 marks, and 60 is almost 1/4 of 250 marks. So that kind of weightage it takes, and if you are preparing seriously, it is not going to take you more than 10 days to prepare first class notes on these topics. What should be your resources? So your resources here need not be an international book. Indian books are excellently written so far as the demands of UPSC are concerned, so I would not be recommending any international book. In one of my earlier videos, I had recommended Cell Biology, Molecular Biology, Evolution and Ecology by Dr. P.S. Verma and V.K. Agrawal. So this has already a coverage of evolutionary biology. So you can pretty well study the topics of evolutionary biology from here, and that should take care. Molecular drive, you will have to check the internet. Adaptive radiation, a little bit of supplementation is needed from the internet. But for most of the topic, this is a good book. You will have to make notes. If you have Veerbala Rastogi's book, that is equally a good book. So any one book, you don't have to subscribe to both the books. Any one book will suffice. If you want concise exam-oriented content, which is both exam-oriented but at the same time is rigorous, you can consider Evolution's Zoology Study Material of 2020 edition. But if you are considering Evolution's Zoology Study Material, make sure that you are getting it directly from Evolution, not from anywhere else. Otherwise, you will end up getting old, incomplete, or even fake content. So any one of these, you have to make the choice. And as always, I am going to tell you, choice is yours, but there is no choice about studying consistently. So be at your work, and slowly but certainly, you will be preparing your subject very well. And this is one subject that is known to produce highest toppers. And we know it very well because in the last 16 years, most of the highest scorers and most of the top rankers of this subject have been from Evolution, and that has been a huge privilege for all of us. So on that note, I will sign off. Goodbye and good luck to all of you. Stay safe and keep studying. Goodbye.